Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be changing the differential bushings on my E90 BMW. This is a stock rear bushing. I didn't go with polyurethane because I didn't want the harshness that would come from that and the diff whine and all that. The procedure would be pretty similar if you did want to consider polyurethane. So this is a stock rear mount. You can't upgrade to M3 on the rear one, but on the front ones you can. These are M3 mounts. They're stiffer and they'll help with play and they'll be an upgrade while still being somewhat compliant. So I'd recommend that you guys consider upgrading to M3 front bushings with the stock rear one. You'll still get a little bit more performance out of them. That's the part number there for the M3 bushings. You'll need two. That's the part number for the rear bushing. I'll put a link in the description as usual. I'm gonna get the car up in the air now. Before anything, a lot of you guys have asked how my diff conversion's holding up. As you can see, still performing like an LSD. They're locked together. So far, I don't feel any degradation. Still keeps the car dead straight and feels good. That's one of the bushings we'll be going after. It's a bit of a difficult shot, but you can see the bushings are backing out of the subframe. As you can see, it's out by maybe 3/8 of an inch, so that's no good. All right guys, so I'm gonna breeze through the removal of this differential, considering I already have a DIY on that. I'll put a link in the description. I'm gonna time lapse through it. I'll come back once the diff is being lowered and we can focus on the actual bushings themselves. My camera died just as I was about to drop out of the car, but no big deal because I'm going to put a link in the description for the video where I show you how to replace this in detail. The point of this video is to show you how to do the bushings. And the LSD conversion is still rock solid. I couldn't break it free no matter how hard I tried. Okay, so I've already changed one of the bushings off camera just to make sure I can figure it out. That's the M3 bushing and that's the stock bushing. As you can see, there's a tighter clearance from here to here and from there to there. So there will be less movement that's allowed before it would make contact versus here. This is just a rubber insulator on all sides. So this would probably be a little more comfortable, but not as robust. FYI, the tool is $70 and change, and it is designed specifically for removing differential bushings. This is a 24 mil. So I use this piece, and then we have this behind it, then you have this nut, and then you have this piece here, which will come right through the hole. This is what it looks like, and there's the bushing itself. So I'm not sure this is recommended, but I found it to be very difficult to do without a little bit of grease on there. Once you have a healthy bushing and you put the bolt and everything in place, these shouldn't move anymore. Mine backed out because they were worn out from what I could tell. But I'm gonna put a thin layer of grease there. I tried it dry and it was just gonna be too problematic from what I could see. And some people say do it dry, and some people say you can put a tiny bit of grease, it's not gonna matter. And I opted to use a tiny bit of grease. Use your discretion. I know people opt to do this without a special tool. You can probably do it, but the tool wasn't super expensive and figured I might as well make my life easier if possible. In the kit, you'll find this piece, which will help guide it in place without putting strain on this part of it. On the other end, you'll find this piece in the kit. It's threaded, and it'll grab onto here without coming through. It's not sitting completely flush at this point, so I'm bringing this in, which will push into the middle and make it all go flush. So it's looking good. It's pretty much dead level. The bottom is perfect, and since it's two separate halves, the top isn't perfect. So I'm just using a C-clamp to tweak it slightly just to get it dead perfect. I did that on the other one. You can do this with washers and stuff from the hardware store, but that tool kind of has all the little bits you're going to need to do it properly. So I'll put a link in the description as usual. I think it was 70 and change. So here's the setup. You have the threaded rod. You have this piece, which is smaller than the bushing. Thread this into here. I'm using a 3-inch PVC coupler and a piece of 2x4 with a 1/2-inch hole drilled into it. There's the bushing. So that was the one that was all torn and I was getting a clunk because of right there. Okay, so that's back in its original position now. So there's a better look at the kit that I used. Those are all the bits for it, and it's specific for differential bushings. Then we use that PVC coupler and a piece of 2x4 to get that rear bushing in. So that bushing has 2 halves to it. If you don't do it properly, you'll end up with 1/2 being in and the other half sticking out a little bit. And if you keep pushing on one side, you could tear the bushing. So keep that in mind. If you're going to do that with a threaded rod and washers, you may need a C-clamp to kind of guide the one side in so that it goes in evenly. That way you won't cause any damage. But I didn't encounter any issues with the hardware that I had. And if you're wondering what the symptoms were, it was a clunk when I would be cruising along and then I'd give it a little bit of gas under load while already in gear. So rather than make this video longer than it needs to be, I already have the video in the description where I showed you how to replace a differential. So you can always reference that for reinstallation. This video was to show you how to do the Diff bushings. So I got my work cut out for me to get it reinstalled, but I'll take care of that off camera. The car's back together now. I realized I didn't have a very good shot of the differential bushing that was damaged. So let me show you that. You can see the bottom part of that is torn, but that's the main failure point. On the bottom of that, you can see there's a good 3 millimeters of gap and all the rubber is missing. That's where the clunk was coming from. So that's more than likely the failure on your car if you're hearing a clunk. And this is something that's probably often overlooked and it would help with the dynamics of the car. And you guys should consider replacing just for maintenance. So if this is the first video you're catching of mine, please consider subscribing. I do upload regularly. Thanks for watching.